Hey everyone, SweetJohnnyCage here, back with another guide for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. This time I'm going to walk you through the final dungeon of the game, as well as the final boss encounter. Spoiler warning for the end of the game. If you do not want things spoiled, you have two choices. One, obviously you could leave and then come back when you just need help. Or two, you can check the timestamps in the description below, and I will create chapters with no spoiler names just to sort of warn you when things are going to happen and when you may want to stop watching after we get through a certain part. Okay, there is a lot of preparation that you should do for this final dungeon. The difficulty of Tears of the Kingdom scales with the amount of hearts that you have. As you can see here, I have 38 hearts as well as 3 full stamina wheels. So all the enemies I'm going to run into, aside from the scripted ones, are going to have a ton of health and deal a ton of damage. If you are like me, you like to go into the end of the game having completed everything, so you will run into this problem as well. But if you have minimal hearts, maybe only 10 or 15 or so, you may have an easier time through this final dungeon. The other thing that I will tell you is that I'm going through this with all 5 sages. Doing so skips 5 boss encounters. So if you do not have all 5 sages, you will have to fight the final boss of the dungeon corresponding to the sage or sages that you do not have. So for example, if you do not have Tulin, who is the sage of the Rito, you'll have to fight Kolgera again. And if you don't have any sages, you will have to fight all 5 of the main story bosses. Having all 5, we're going to skip that part. So we're really just going to have to go through the gauntlet of enemies before we get to the final boss. The other thing that I want to tell you about, or one of the other things that I want to tell you about, is that all of the enemies in this final dungeon will deal gloom damage. So what that means is that they will reduce our maximum heart capacity as we take damage. So what you want to do for that is go to a cooking pot, like this one in Lookout Landing here in the hideaway, and you want to make food using Sundelions. So Sundelions are these flowers right here. These are found all over the Sky Islands and the archipelagos. Using these as a cooking ingredient in dishes such as this one, Sunny Steamed Meat, restores hearts damaged by gloom, and then of course if you cook it with a protein, it will actually restore the hearts as well. If you just were to use the Sundelions on their own, this is what you get if you just use 5 of them. You get Sunny Fried Wild Greens. It restores hearts damaged by gloom, so you can use that as well. Very, very important to do this, because as you are fighting the final boss, you will not be able to leave. There is a point of no return inside of the dungeon, which prevents you from warping out. So you don't want to get there having taken 20-something, damage worth of gloom hearts and only have 10 hearts left and have to deal with the final boss on 10 hearts. You really don't want to have to do that. So craft food. This is really the only time in the game that I really recommend it. Next up, you want to have a very healthy supply of weapons. For the most part in this dungeon, for the final boss encounter, you're going to be using the Master Sword, but everything up till that, again, if you have 38 hearts like I do, is going to require a good amount of weapons. And there's a forced encounter with a gauntlet of enemies, and if you do not have enough weapons to get through it, you're going to have a really hard time. So I really recommend having a healthy supply of weapons. If you have done all of these shrines, or at the very least, if you have reached this island here in the Necluda Sky Archipelago, this is Zonite Forge Island. Every single blood moon, the cache of weapons in this island, or on this island in the Forge area, will replenish. So every time a blood moon happens, you can just warp back to this island, pick up all the Zonite weapons again, and you have a supply of them. So really recommend unlocking this island and having that cache of weapons. I will leave a link in the description for how to reach the Yansaman Shrine, as well as, of course, reach this island. It takes a while. There's a few different ways to do it, but it's well worth it in the end, especially just for that cache of weapons, like I said. Okay. Next up, you want to have a decent supply of bombs if you are interested in fighting all of the enemies in this place. Being totally honest, I'm going to skip pretty much all the non-mandatory encounters just because I have 38 hearts. They're going to be the white versions of everything, and they take a long time to kill. I'll talk about how to kill things, and I'll tell you what encounters are coming up, but for the most part, we're just going to skip them. But bomb arrows are super, super helpful because there is a Gloom Hand or Floor Master fight plus a Phantom Ganon fight that you can do. I'm going to skip it, but bomb arrows are helpful for that. You also want a decent amount of shields available. Doesn't really matter what kind of shield, but you need to become very familiar with the parry mechanic of this game. The second to last phase of the final boss kind of relies on it. The boss can sort of backflip away from your sword strikes or any weapon strikes, and then you kind of have to chase him down. Otherwise, if you just wait and parry him, you'll be able to get some damage. Otherwise, you kind of just got to push him into a corner and hope for the best. At least that's the way that I found to defeat him. So, again, just have a healthy supply of shields. I have 10 here. We're probably not going to use most of them, but of course having them. And of course, if you're looking for the Hylian shield, you can find this within Hyrule Castle in the moat section. So you want to enter Hyrule Castle around the water, and then you will find I think it's over here, but there's a cave entrance, and then there's a chest you can create by lighting some torches, and the Hyrule shield is there. If you have broken your Hyrule shield or lost it, you can go back to Hotno Village, which is over here. Within Hotno Village, as long as you have done the mayoral election side quest, you can go to the armor shop and purchase any unique armor or shields that you have lost. They are expensive. The Hyrule shield costs 3,000 rupees in case you've lost it, so just a heads up. I think that's it. I did mention that everything here does gloom damage, so in addition to having Sundelion food, I do recommend using and upgrading the gloom armor. If you do not have this armor, you get it by visiting the bargainer statues in the depths. I have a guide that I will link in the description that shows the location of all of them, but every single time you find a bargainer statue, such as this one here, a new piece of armor becomes available. It alternates between the Gloom set and the Dark Link set. So the first bargainer statue you find, I think it unlocks the Gloom legs. Second one will unlock the Dark legs. Third one unlocks the Gloom chest. Fourth one unlocks the Gloom, the Dark chest, and so on and so forth. So you kind of do have to find all of them, or at least 6 of them, in order to get the full Gloom set. I highly recommend upgrading it, especially if you have a lot of hearts. Everything's going to deal a lot of damage here. The way you upgrade armor is you want to visit the Great Fairy Fountains at various stables. Basically, what I recommend doing is coming here to the Woodland Stable. You can do this very early on in the game, or you can even come to the, the Dueling Peak Stable down here, and there will be a band playing, and then you can do a quest for that band. And then when you do that, they will go to the Great Fairy Fountain, play a song for the Great Fairy. The Great Fairy will then tell you the location of her other 3 sisters, and then you can go do the band quests for those 3 sisters with the band at other stables. And then when you unlock the 4th Great Fairy, you'll be able to upgrade your armor 4 times. So each time you unlock a Great Fairy, you can upgrade your armor once, 2nd Great Fairy twice, 3rd Great Fairy 3 times, 4th Great Fairy the 4th and maximum time. Upgrading armor can get expensive, requires various materials. For example, the Dark set requires the fireflies that you find in the depths. I think they're Gloom fireflies. Requires those. Level 2 requires Frox Fangs, which are the big frog Dodongo looking things that you find throughout the depths. And then level 3 requires the blue-white Frox Fangs. It gets pretty expensive. My Gloom armor is leveled up to level 3 for most pieces. It's actually level 2. So I have level 2 tunic and gaiters, and then level 3 hood. This is plenty. 28 armor should be just fine. But highly, highly recommend you upgrade your armor. And if you can, use the Gloom set or the depth set. Okay, that is it in terms of preparation. It is now time to go to the dungeon. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Sarudabomak Shrine, which is on top of Hyrule Castle on the floating island, and then we will glide down into the depths. The other armor set, totally optional, is the Glide armor. I'll show you where to get that. I should have mentioned this a moment ago before warping, but the Glide armor is really, really helpful for the final phase of this boss fight, and we are going to use it. You get the Glide armor at the various glide challenges that are located in the Sky Archipelagos. So we'll go back out to the main map. One of them is right here on Bravery Island. This is in the North Hyrule Sky Archipelago, just north of the castle. So you get a piece there, and then you get another piece on this island over here, on Valor Island in the South Lanayru Sky Archipelago. And then the third piece is obtained over here. Where is it? Right here. This is Courage Island. This is located in the Tabantha Sky Archipelago. So each of these diving challenges, you get a piece of the glide set. Again, recommend upgrading it. Not so important to upgrade that one. Definitely focus on the depth set upgrading, but the glide set is very, very helpful as well. Okay, let's get started. So we're starting here at Hyrule Castle. The 5 sages blink in. All cool. And then we are going to glide down to the depths. Whoops. All right. So I'm actually going to very quickly set my sensor to shrines. I've done all 152, but that will basically prevent it from going off looking for treasure chests as I had it set. The light route for this section of the depths is right here, so be sure to light your way. However, we need to keep going down and down and down and down and down. Welcome to Gloom's Approach. Alright, so now we gotta find the entrance to the dungeon, which we just sort of glide around. And right here. Okay, so basically on the south end, you will see a like. Again, I'm going to be skipping basically all the encounters leading up to the boss, or at least up to the mandatory encounters, just because they are quite difficult and you don't need to do them. But, you know, these are Thunder Likes. You can take care of them like always. Just wait for them to expose their tongue or their egg and then shoot it. You have Horriblins in this section of the cave, but using Tulin, we can just zip over here. And then you want to quickly just climb up this wall. They will throw a boulder at you as you approach the top, but you can avoid that. I do recommend dealing with these lightning keys. That is exactly why. And you can sort of ignore the warning of the Master Sword running out of energy. You don't really need to worry about it so much, because when it comes time for the final boss, you will get it back, and it will never run out of energy at that point. So this is why the Gloom armor is helpful. You can just walk through Gloom and you get an extra 4 heart pieces or heart containers that just replenish over time. All right, so here we have a Lionel. I'm definitely going to skip this guy, and instead we just want to turn to the left, come over here, and then climb up here. And then when we step onto this platform, it's going to break away. It's okay, don't worry about it. And then next we're going to come through this cave opening here. And then a block falls out of the sky. We've seen this a billion times at this point in the game. So you just want to climb on top of it, use recall, and rewind it up top. And then we are going to be able to cross the bridge. Just like that. All right, we're going to turn right at this intersection. You can use Unobo to break open these blocks or these rocks. There's nothing underneath them except for, you know, rusted weapons and stones. You don't need to really do that. And now we are on the other side of the pit where we would have fought the Lionel. So that's basically what we just did. All right, turning around, we're going to have Ice Likes as well as Ice Keys. Now, something really helpful here is if you have found Xant's helmet in the depths, it's in one of the Colosseums. This helmet is unfreezable. So it makes it so even if you get touched, you will not get frozen. Very helpful for this passage, but really not necessary at all. So we can just come through here, ignore the keys, and then go ahead and re-equip the Gloom helm. Go to the depths, and then you want to just start going down this section here, and then start heading north, and then at this point, the sages go away. So the sages will no longer be helping us. Which I kind of like. I like when a game takes the rug out from underneath you. Oh, we have enemies. All right. I didn't realize the lids of posts were following. Okay. So in this next section, we are going to have a Floor Master encounter. I'm going to show you how to deal with that, and we're going to fight the Phantom Ganon. You don't have to do this, but it's an encounter that we can do relatively quickly, so I do recommend going for it. All right, so as we approach right here, the Gloom hands will come out. And then at this point, you just want to take out bomb arrows and go to town. Try to maintain some distance. They continuously approach you, so it can be a little difficult. Ah. Just really ate it there. Oops. You want to make sure these things die at the same time, or at least within quick succession. Otherwise, they end up coming back to life. And here we are with Phantom Ganon. You can get some quick damage on him. This is a Spear Phantom Ganon. So what I recommend doing is while fighting him, try to bait him into jumping towards you. Just get a little bit of distance. And then as soon as his arm begins to extend, you can get a Flurry Rush, no problem. Now, unfortunately, my Master Sword broke, so this is going to take a little while. But it's okay. You can use this as an opportunity to learn how to parry the spear. It's easier said than done. I recommend trying to be late rather than early, because if you're early, you're going to take a bunch of damage. As soon as I said it, it happened. That's great. Love it when that happens. So I was late there. There we go. And then you do have to walk up to him in order to get the actual attack off. So this is completely optional. You do not need to do this encounter. All right. I'm going to go with the Silver Lionel Smasher. Just try to hurry this up. Nice. I hope this doesn't break. This is a very good weapon, but it's okay if it does. See what I mean? Like, baiting him into doing the jump attack it's just the way to go with these Spear Phantom Ganons. Come on. And then as soon as the right hand starts moving towards you, not necessarily the weapon, just pay attention to the hand. As soon as the hand comes near you, that's when you want to dodge. Perfect. Very easy to replicate. The spear ones are my favorite. To me, they are the easiest. You pick up the Gloom Spear, and then the Dark Clumps are used to upgrade the depth set, so very, very helpful. Okay, now that we've done that, this is where we could have gone to just skip everything, but this is where you need to go anyway. So we're going to climb the side of this pillar. You want to move either to the right or the left, otherwise you're going to get stuck on that lip there. And then this is the only enemy I recommend doing anything with. Yeah, just make them fall. That's all you need to do. And the reasons for that is because if you were to take out a Rock Smasher and then start breaking open these rocks, you'll find a chest inside with 10 bombs. So very, very helpful. It's right here. It's the only chest I would tell you to get. I don't know if there's any others in here. I imagine there are, but at this stage of the game, you don't really need anything they're going to give you. All right. Welcome back to the beginning of the game. This is the opening section of the game. I love it when games do this. All right. Now this area is teeming with enemies, however. And even though we've completed all the shrines, we are less 2 hearts. I don't understand why. So we're going to run through this hallway. There's going to be a bunch of Gibdos, and then rocks have formed to block the chamber in the back. So go ahead and blow those open, and then you can proceed through. Now, something that I'm going to show you is we have the tablets that tell the story of the Zonai and ancient Hyrule. We have Roru coming down from the heavens, meeting Sonia, getting married. Ganondorf shows up, killing Sonia. The Demon King's army lays siege, but then all of this was blocked. However, since we now have the ability to do something about it, we can just throw some bombs and see the rest of the story here. Okay. So Demon King's army invades. The sages attempt to fight him. We have the Sage of Wind. We have the Sage of Lightning there. We have the Sage of Spirit. We have Roru, the Sage of Light. Zelda, the Sage of Time. And then we have the Zora Sage right here, the Sage of Water, and the Sage of Fire right here. Attempting to fight the Demon King. The Demon King wins. The Sage of Time finds the Master Sword that has been broken in our present timeline. And then something with a dragon. If you have not figured that part out yet, go find the Master Sword on your own. All right, we're going to break open these rocks to continue to where we started the game. We're going to go down here. You can shield surf if you like. It does damage your shield, though, so I don't always recommend it. All right, so this is the imprisoning chamber. Again, this is where the game started. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to glide down. And then I will warn you, this is basically the start of the point of no return. This is the last place that you can put a travel medallion to warp back to it. So just keep that in mind. So at this point, this is the last time you can travel anywhere. When you move past this chamber, it's a very obvious spot, you cannot leave. So if you just needed help up until this point, reaching this spot, good luck on the rest of it. Come back if you need help. But for those of you sticking around, let's go. One interesting thing that I want to point out is that there is a torch here. This is the torch that Zelda dropped. I love that that's here. It's so good. All right, so we're going to run through here. And there's a lot of gloom all around, but you can just carefully run through it. All right, and then as you approach this section, this dive point is the point of no return. So if you're low on health or if you want to do anything, go back to an inn and rest. What I'm going to do is I'm going to heal up using something that I've cooked. I'm not going to waste one of my expensive ones. I don't have anything good. Perfect. Okay, again, this is the point of no return. Take out a good weapon and get ready. So as soon as you land on this platform, you're going to be forced into a combat encounter that happens over a bunch of phases. So each time, harder and harder enemies are going to spawn. Even at 38 hearts, you don't have to deal with anything too insane. The worst thing you got to do is deal with the boss Bokoblin. Other than that, it's not like, you got to fight 3 Lionels or anything. The optional Colosseums in this game are a lot harder, but this can become challenging, and this is where your cache of weapons comes into play. So we have a healthy number of Bokoblins here. However, since we have good weapons, we can easily deal with them, no problem. Oh, the tip broke. I guess I don't fully understand how that weapon works. All right, no big deal. Let's go ahead and drop something. I don't like using Gibda bones just because they break so easily. Let's use a Silver Lizithos horn. All right, so luckily the sages are here to help. So what I recommend doing is trying to help the sages. And the reason I recommend doing this is because oftentimes they will have dealt a decent amount of damage to the enemies, and then you kind of just got to finish them off. Now you'll notice that we're killing a lot of enemies here. However, the overall health bar really isn't changing that much. And that's because more enemy waves are going to show up. So we're really only going to bring this down to about 50%. And then after that, we will find more enemies to deal with. All right. So you can pick up the materials. You do sort of get a New Game Plus in this game, so picking up the materials is worth it. All right. Second round. It's going to be Lizafos. Recommend a bomb arrow just to separate them up a bit. I have given my my construct some level 2 construct horns. Just, you know, give it something useful. Deal some real damage. And again, this is where your cache of weapons comes in. Cannot recommend coming in here with decent weapons enough, because you really can't rely on the Master Sword at this point, because it will break during this encounter. And if it broke on your way here, then it's completely useless to you. Alright, so the sages take care of the last guy. Next up are Gibdo. So, the Sage of Lightning really comes in handy here. Otherwise, you can just use Shock Fruit if you have enough arrows for yourself, but if you don't, just, you know, keep speaking with Riju. The Goblin Wings and the Goblin Rib Cages are especially helpful. They are very strong attachments for weapons. The only downside is that they break very easily. Try to take care of the ones that are running towards you. They can really mess you up very easily, as evidenced by the one behind me. Hello. Oof. All right, now time for the flyers. All right. Did I forget one? Nope. All right. Next up are a whole band of moblins. Are these moblins? I'm actually going to take a picture. Yep. Add them to your compendium in case you haven't done that already. All right, so we got moblins now. The sages are really going to come in handy with these guys, so I recommend just trying to deal with one at a time. Luckily, there's, you know, with the 5 sages, you're not going to have too hard of a time, because the sages will sort of occupy the rest. And then just try to find the one, maybe with, you know, not the maximum amount of health, like maybe the lowest health, and just try to finish them off using the sages. The construct is really, really helpful here. But once you kill the final enemy here, it's time for the final boss. Now, if you do not have a sage or any sages, you will have to fight the final bosses of the temples at this point. However, because I have the sages, I don't have to do that. Even without the sages, you may be thinking, like, wait, how can I possibly kill the bosses of the temples without the sages' power? I needed to use it throughout the dungeon. Not necessarily true. This is where Tears of the Kingdom can get quite creative. So for the Water Temple boss, you can just use Splash Fruit to sort of clean up the muck, and then find the Muck to Rock and you know, kill it. Using arrows with Splash Fruit is very helpful. For Marbled Goma, you can actually just ascend up the boss and then hit the eye, and then, you know, just use recall to sort of move the bombs back towards the boss. And then for the Wind Temple boss, you can just use a bow and arrow. It's very, very easy. You barely even need Tulin in that fight to begin with. The construct fight is pretty easy. You can just use a bow and some bomb arrows to constantly push it back into the ropes. You will actually have to do that another time in this game. You actually fight that boss in the depths in another fashion, so you can do it that way. And then the Lightning Temple boss, just use Shock Fruit. You can do it all without the Sage powers. The Sages just make it so much easier. But yeah, okay, so at this point, we are basically sealed into this cavern. So this is a wall here. You're not meant to go this way. You're actually meant to turn around. Yeah. Okay, so you'll notice that I have taken some gloom damage, so we are now going to eat the food that we prepared ourselves. Yep, let's eat this. Perfect. Okay. At this point, the Master Sword has returned to us. Now, being totally honest, I'm not sure if you can do this. You can absolutely do this without the Master Sword. I just don't know if you get the Master Sword at this point if you didn't get it as part of the story. You don't need it by any means, but at this point, the Master Sword basically becomes, it has infinite durability, so it's never going to break, which is very, very nice. We are about to start the first part of the final boss. This is a multi-phased fight. I will leave timestamps at the start of each phase. This way you know when to, tune out in case you just want to try it on your own. You just need help for one phase. This goes on for a while. I am going to edit this guide in post and sort of take out any cutscenes that start, and I'm gonna any of the ones that I can't skip. But this is gonna take us through the end of the game, so just be aware of that. Okay, once you're ready, you want to approach this big room here, and then I will skip the dialogue. But we are gonna start the final boss. All right, this is Demon King Ganondorf. So, this is quite literally just a Phantom Ganon fight, just in a corporeal form. Not too difficult. I do find the sword phases of this fight the most challenging. If you were to just wait him out, he will change weapons. He's going to do it a few times throughout the fight. But again, this is why the Gloom armor really comes in handy, because you can just sort of stand in the Gloom and it'll just take the damage for you. I always dodge it way too early. Alright, so if you get a parry, you want to move into him before you start attacking. Otherwise, your first attack will whiff. So what he's doing here, he's never going to follow up with like a full flurry strike or anything, but it does make it so he's going to avoid your damage. In the final phase of this, part of the fight, that's going to get very annoying, and it's when you really need to parry. Otherwise, you just got to push him into a wall, which is, I can call it right now, that's what we're going to end up doing because I'm not great at parrying in this game. But I'll show you how to deal with it. So again, once the hand starts moving to you, that's when you want to dodge. That's a dirty follow-up there. So at this point, he's just going to start moving around the room, painting it with Gloom. So you just look out. I think you... Yeah, I tried to parry that way too early. I shouldn't have done that. I think you can parry it, though. All right, so the club is probably the second easiest. As soon as Ganondorf starts falling in his big leap, that's when you want to dodge. So as soon as he starts moving down, that's when you dodge. And you can get a full flurry strike on him. He's big. He's lumbering. For this attack, you want to jump and bust out your paraglider really quick, and then get behind him, and you can get a decent amount of attacks on him. Just be aware he can recover from it. We're going to make him jump. So you have a pretty generous window there to do it. All right, so that's the first phase of Demon King Ganondorf. I'm going to skip into the second phase now, so pause if you don't want to see it. All right, this is Demon King Ganondorf now. And so he has a hilariously long life bar. What we're going to do, though, is we're just going to wait for all the sages to show up. They show up one at a time. They're coming through the door. And then once all 5 show up, all of the Phantom Ganons will be distracted by them, and then you don't have to worry about them. You do have to keep an eye on them, but you don't have to worry about them in terms of them, hitting you or really... you even needing to deal damage to them. That's really the worst it's going to get, is they sort of clump up and you can get hit by stray shots. But as soon as you see the construct come in, that's your cue to start going in. So we got Riju. Saw that the other ones were far away, so we're okay. Now, again, the only thing you got to do is make sure that the Phantom Ganons are sort of all in front of you. So you literally just want to keep baiting out the flurry strikes. So that's a easy enough attack to dodge. You just back up and look at the waves where they are. If you are near a sage, feel free to call them and use their power, but I really don't recommend dropping your shield just because of the amount of damage everything in here can do. So I'm not feeling too nice about the position of all these Phantom Ganons, so I'm going to back up a while, or back up a ways. And then I am not targeting Ganondorf. I am targeting somebody else. There he is. Ooh, nice. Toolin got me. Alright. Yeah, we're going to back up. Dodge as soon as he falls. Back to the spear. Alright. So, next phase of the fight, feel free to stop watching if you don't want to see it. This is where parrying becomes almost mandatory. The sages are now out of the fight, and anytime, even if you were to dodge and get a flurry strike, all right. So with this, you got to find an opening and dodge through it. I didn't think he was gonna do that fast. Anytime you get a dodge with a flurry strike, I'll try to bait one here. I'm so bad at it with the sword. All right. So there's multiple waves in this one, but just back up, play a little bullet hell. All right. So watch. Flurry Rush, as soon as I go to hit, he backflips. So you cannot rely on Flurry Rush in this part of the fight. Instead, what you have to do is you need to rely on parrying as best you can, or get him into a corner. So you can sort of press him back into a corner by baiting out his backflips. And then as long as you have him in the corner, you can get some damage on him. The camera starts to get a little whack, but it's okay. So yeah, with parries, you are able to get actual follow-ups. Otherwise, you just have to push him into a corner. When he's changing weapons, you are able to get some damage into him. It seems a little random because there are times where it seems like he will end up being invincible. But just keeping him in the corner is the way to go. Try to parry him to the best of your ability. Don't get too greedy on the extra hits when he's transforming the weapons. It's funny, I hit him and he still got a backflip. So you really got to rely on parrying. Just try to watch his hand. It can be very difficult to watch his hand because there's so much gloom all over the place. But just do your best. This is why a healthy number of shields is really, really important. All right. So don't worry if your hearts are getting deleted like that. It's not as big of a deal as you think. Because for the final part of the phase, your health is less important. Yeah, he's going to backflip. I do like when bosses are even with you. Like, I do enjoy that, but this gets a little annoying. Had him in the corner. There we go. Oh, come on. This guy is so obnoxious. There we go. Almost done. All right. Having him in the corner with that bow attack can be really frustrating because you want to keep him in the corner, but you also don't want to get massacred by the orbs. So it's a little tricky there. To me, you're better off just taking the hit from the orb on the ground. This way, you just deal with that and he stays in the corner. As long as you have a good amount of health, it's a safer strat. Otherwise, you want to try to back out of it and just find an angle to walk through the orbs. But if they're getting too close, it's worthless. Just eat it and move on. All right, so this is the final phase of the fight. Huge story spoilers. You don't want to see this. But for those of you who still need help and sticking around, enjoy. All right, so there's a few loading screens because they're pretty big cutscenes about to play, but I'm going to skip it. And this is where the glide armor comes in handy. So there is Draconified Ganon. All right, once you're ready, open up the pause menu, change over to the glide armor, and get ready for the most epic final boss in Zelda history. All right, so once you're ready, you want to jump off of the light dragon and then start soaring towards Demon Dragon. You want to find an eye on its back, and then you want to land there, and then this is how you're going to deal damage. You don't really have to worry about fall damage, barely have to worry about the gloom damage. Just enter the little pit. Come on. Enter the little pit, and then get some attacks on the eye. Once you do that, you'll get kicked off, and then you can start gliding again. I don't believe you can hit the surface in this fight because the light dragon will always just home in on you and you'll land on its head. And then you can just sort of restart. So we're going to do this a whole bunch of times. And then eventually we're going to be able to deal the final blow. All right, so when you're ready, jump off, start gliding. And then I'm going to aim for the one on the tail here. If you get hit by one of the falling orbs, it's okay. It'll just sort of knock you off course, and then you got to, do it over again. It's not a big deal. All right. Wow. All right. Try to guide yourself towards the light dragon. They'll pick you up. Oh. Wow. Yep, there he is. Okay. Jump off when ready, and start it again. So this is where the glide armor comes in handy. You're able to better dodge the gloom orbs. Okay, aim for the light dragon once again. They'll pick you up. Take you back up through the demon dragon, and then look for the next eye. Got one back here. So if you feel like you've been in the air too long, feel free to dive towards it. Yep. Otherwise, you're going to have to deal with some more orbs. All right. For the final blow, we're going to land on its head. But I will warn you, some big story spoilers as soon as you land that final blow. So if you're comfortable with the fight, stop watching and just take it from here for yourself. It doesn't get any more complicated. You just got to land in a different spot. It's the big glowing stone on its head. So you just got to play a little bit of Ikaruga here. Dodge the corruption. Land on its head. And smash away. And that's it. There is a little bit left. I will show it, but major spoiler warnings again for the story. You do have something else to do here aside from deliver the final blow. Just going to show you like the final prompt, the actual control of the game. So hit Y to deal the final attack. And then that shatters the stone. And then from here, we just have one final thing to do. And that is to rescue Zelda. So I don't know if this is failable. I kind of don't think it is. It'd be a little funny if it was. But the last thing we're going to do is we're just going to dive towards Zelda and then catch her. So I think it's interesting that they force you to see Link's face, and they sort of remove any armor that might obscure his face and distract from the moment, but they keep your pants on, so if you have funny-looking pants, it's still going to show. So just keep holding R to dive to Zelda, and then eventually you're going to get close enough to grab her. So just get real close, and then the scene will sort of change. You get a prompt to hit A to reach, and then you're going to have to hold A to reach and grab her. And then once they link hands, that's it. That's the game. So from here, I will sort of skip everything else. If you have all 5 stages, I believe you get a bonus cutscene. I haven't beat the game without 5, but it seems like a bonus cutscene at the end. It is after the credits, so stick around for that. And, I highly recommend watching the credits just so you can see all the folks that worked on this game. But, yeah, I hope this has all been helpful to you. It's a decent final encounter. I think it's one of the greatest final bosses in Zelda history. I think this is what I was really hoping for out of Breath of the Wild. And it feels like the correct follow-up to that final boss fight. So I really, really enjoyed it. If you need any help throughout the rest of the game, I have guides for all 152 shrines, all 5 dungeons in addition to this one, and some other guides here and there, for more difficult parts of the game. I have walkthroughs for those. But that's it. All right, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. I'll do my best to help you out. If you're looking for more guides for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, please subscribe to the channel so you get alerted when new guides go live. If you're interested in supporting the channel monetarily, please consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button below this video. You can also leave a super thanks by clicking the heart icon below this video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and join my Discord. The links for those are in the description below. As always, I'm SweetJohnnyCage. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.